Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
Oh, so ready for rapid fire. Best part of the day. Best part of my day.
All right. I'm going to let you hear a cut
Okay.
from Marcus Freeman.
Okay.
So, like, I'm not just reading a quote from Marcus Freeman. I'm letting you hear Marcus Freeman's words. He was asked the other day who his best pass rushers are. Here's the answer.
Hard to name just four, but Boubacar has done a good job of really rushing after the passer. You know, it's not just defensive linemen. You can utilize linebackers, which you saw Jalen Sneed do last year. I really like our pass rush package in terms of who we're able to get on the field, but it's a deep one. All right, we have some guys that can rush the passer, and I know Coach Gordon will have those guys on the field that need to be on the field.
All right, so I've got two questions for you here, if I can find my sheet. Question one, do you buy or sell Boubacar Traore finishing in the top 3 for Notre Dame in combined sacks and pressures this season?
Top 3 is tough because he could sneak into that third slot. A lot of people are really high on him. He did really well at the scrimmage, and we heard that from more than one source. So, you know what? I'll get on the hype train and I'll buy it. I'll say that, yes, that happens. Why not? Let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's go. Boubacar, do me right.
John Christophic. Haven't heard from John
Oh my
in a
gosh.
little while. He's a big buy on
Okay,
Boubacar.
John, I love it.
I mean, there's so many questions with that Viper position and what's exactly going to happen with that Viper
Sean
position.
It's funny because we broke down the defensive line a couple of weeks ago, and Brian broke down the actual impact that the Viper position had last year. And it was pretty much zero. Like, there was no production from the Viper position, and yet the defense was still really good. If the Viper position can offer anything to this defense,
yes,
it just elevates them that much more. You know what I mean? Like, just give me something, baby. Give me something from the Viper position.
I'm going to go in on Boubacar. Like, you know, like that was the first name out of Marcus Freeman's mouth.
Sorry, I don't want to go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I didn't mean to step on your toes. I apologize for that.
It's okay.
When I was listening to him live, Boubacar's name came to you know, his mind first because of what he just did, you know, 20 minutes prior.
That's true.
At the scrimmage.
A little recency bias maybe
100%.
for the head coach because he just saw what a great day that he had out there and all that kind of stuff.
And I feel like once he actually said a name, he like started to kind of backtrack a little bit and didn't say another name.
And went into more
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's what it felt like.
Right.
That's what it felt like to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The other question in this is, like, how much is a guy like Jalen Sneed or even Kingston Viliamu Asa, you know, going to play into that Viper, like as a sub, for example? Because, like, you know, we heard Max Bullock, like with this linebacker rotation, as you've said quite a bit, the Rovers not going to be on the field, but they like both of those guys for athletes. And Max Bullock talked about how the fact that there are going to be times when one of the linebackers is going to go there and become, you know, basically play the Viper position because of the pass rush skills that they have. But we're talking about top 3. And Boubacar, as we've seen, great athlete. He rolled right off Marcus Freeman's tongue. So I'm going to say top 3, combined sacks and pressures. I'll buy him in there for this season.
Okay.
Question 2, the Irish registered 31 sacks last season, over under 37.5 this season.
I'm taking the over, and here's why. I think, you know, this is where I get excited about the linebacking core. I think that they are going to contribute more from a sack production standpoint than they have in the past. Look, the linebackers were really good last year. They were really good the year before that, but I feel like they need to continue to finish those plays. And I think these guys will finish those plays from a stat standpoint. So I will take the over.
The only doubt that I have is the fact that you're playing 2 service academies.
That's fair.
So, like, how much does that impact it?
Yeah.
But you're still playing Miami. You're still playing Northern Illinois. You're still playing
Sure.
Purdue and some of the, you know, you're still playing Virginia and some of these other schools. They had 38 sacks 2 years ago. That's why I went to 37.5. Like, do they equal what they had 2 years ago as opposed to the 31 they had last year? I just think that with everything they've got in this front seven, I think they're going to have. I think I'm going over as well. I'm going up to 38, at least 38. So
Nice.
we're in the same boat on that. So, headset communications coming to college football this year. Players on the offense, of course, are going to be able to hear their head coach, or not head coach, but hear their coach and have plays called into them from the sideline. The green dots on the back of their helmet, like on the offense, it's obviously going to be the quarterback, Jack Kiser. We'll talk about him in a second. He'll be one of the guys on the defense. So here's what Riley Leonard had to say about how the headset communication has been working for him.
Do a great job with it. So, we'll get the play and then we'll get maybe a piece of advice attached with it. Whatever they want to say. I think it's great for me. So you save probably 10 seconds looking at the defense and figuring out what they're doing every single play instead of looking at the sideline. So that's a great thing. Maybe we're able to huddle when I can get here, so we hide signals. Obviously, signal stealing is a thing in college football, so maybe we can hide signals that way. So there are a lot of different things we can do with it.
So how beneficial do you think it's going to be, Vince, to be able to, the headset comes?
No, I think it's going to be very beneficial. It'll move the game along a little bit more, maybe. It just depends on how teams want to use it. The only thing that I fear from a coaching standpoint, I'm not saying specifically to Notre Dame, but just in general, is the overcoaching through the headset. That's the only thing that, it's just going to confuse guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need the overcoaching. That's all. And I don't want quarterbacks to use that as a crutch either. Learn the defense, learn your reads, learn what you're supposed to be doing. You shouldn't have to have somebody in your ear telling you what to do. Now, you want to throw a little reminder in there, or if you want to say, hey, I've noticed the safety has been coming down, keep an eye on that backside post or so. Cool. Like, I'm cool with that, but don't be like, throw it to 0. You know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily want that kind of stuff, but we'll never know.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing shuts off at 15 seconds or the snap of the ball, 15 seconds left on the clock, whichever came first. It was interesting kind of hearing Riley Leonard talking about the fact that he could keep his eyes basically, like he can keep his eyes on the defense line, right, so he can kind of stand there and, do this, block out whatever sound, is out there in the stadium, keep his eyes on the defense and actually look at things rather than looking to the sideline, taking his eyes off the defense. So I think that I think from that perspective, I never really thought about it until I heard him say that can be very helpful. And it sounds like this thing has gone pretty well so far. Like, I think the biggest impact potentially is for all teams is going to be when you're on the road and what kind of factor the road crowd can be. So
absolutely
be curious to see like how much right off the bat. And Riley Leonard, the follow-up to that was like, have you guys been practicing it with a lot of loud noise and stuff like that in the background? And he said they have, and they've still, been able to work through it. So,
yeah, I'm interested to see how, the rest of, I guess I've never really paid attention in the NFL, how the play gets to the rest of the team. Now, if they huddle, it's obvious, right? I mean, they give the play. And a lot of times that is the case in the NFL. It is rare. I should say it's more rare to see an NFL team going fast and, that kind of a thing. And so usually they're huddling, and usually, NFL plays are ridiculously wordy, and it comes in from the sideline and they just disseminate it in the huddle. That'll probably be the case a lot. But if they're not huddling, I am interested to see how the play is getting to the rest of the team and what that looks like. They're still going to have to do signals either from Riley or from the sideline or verbally or, whatever. So, so that's going to be interesting.
And I'm still curious to see how they've been doing the clap count during training camp. And it looks like they plan on loud clap from the quarterback. And I was talking with Brian about this, and especially in a road environment
right
like that. And what Brian said, because I was talking to him about, what do you think about that? When you're going on the road, you're going to have all this noise. Guys aren't going to be able to hear that clap all the time. And like what Brian said was like, you get like the center can see like the motion of the clap. So even if he can't hear it, he knows that he's got to snap it at that point.
I mean, I always taught my wide receivers. Now, granted, this was high school. It's like, you don't even listen to the cadence. Just look at the ball.
Peek. Yeah.
When the ball moves, you move.
Just like a defensive lineman.
Yeah.
Basically.
There's no reason for you to be listening to the cadence. And if you jump off sides, you're going to be next to me. Like, that's the bottom line there. Like, you watch the football, and my guess is a lot of guys are going to be watching the hand clap or watching the motion. And, with your peripheral vision, you're going to be able to see the quarterback, making the motion.
Joe, it's interesting you asked this question about Golden talking about Jack Kiser talking back if he had the opportunity. Here's Al Golden.
Probably good because Jack's really smart. So if he had a button back to me, it would be a long day for us. You know what I mean? We'd go back and forth. He's a problem solver, and I can tell him, certain things. And then, when I get cut off, he can operate it based on what he sees, But we just try to keep it really quiet. We try to keep it calm. I tell the coaches all the time, it's Sully landing on the Hudson. It's not, it's not a rock concert. It's not everybody yelling. We got Teterboro on the right, unable. I'm going in the Hudson, and it's that just what do we have to get across, and the rest of it's noise. It's not going to help us. Coach talks about it all the time. All the other noise isn't going to help us.
Could you imagine if the players, had the ability to talk back to the coach like he was talking about? It would be very bad.
Yeah.
Very bad. Very bad.
Very bad. I wish I could just turn off players a lot, actually, even in regular talking and coaching. But he makes a very good point. Keeping it calm, just worry about getting the information across. You're not screaming, you're not yelling. You're just, hey, we've done this 1,000 times. We're just doing it again. Here's the information you need. Get it to your guys. Let's go.
Yeah. I know we've talked about this, but it just feels like, again, with this young linebacker core, and you hear Al Golden talking about that with Jack Kiser, like Jack's, I would be shocked if he's not on the field quite a bit.
Exactly. For that reason there that he just said.
And what that rotation sort of looks like around him. Like
could not agree more. Yeah. Could not agree more. Yeah. It's that whole, coach on the field thing. And you can call it coach speak, you can call it whatever you want. At the end of the day, it's exactly what it is. And it's a real thing, and it helps your team. So
Notre Dame for Life is asking if the headphones are noise canceling. I've never actually seen what these things look like. Have you ever actually seen one?
I've seen the NFL ones, and they're just like speakers. They're not, it's not like a headphone. It's like a circular speaker that's about like that, and it's inside the helmet. And because I've heard, in NFL terms, like when a team goes to Seattle, for example, it's really loud, right? So they put multiple speakers in there so that they can, they can hear it better, that kind of a thing. I assume the college version is the same. I don't think it's like an over the ear or, it's certainly not like an AirPod. You would not want something inside your ear when you're getting hit. Like, that's not very intelligent, because then it could get stuck in there, and that would be a whole thing. So my guess is it's the speaker that just kind of goes inside.
Well, because, even like trying to get that thing like through the helmet into your ear.
Yeah, that would be like bad news.
Very complicated.
The only time I've ever seen anything in an ear is like a catcher, in baseball. Like, they have the earpiece, that kind of a thing. Other than that, I don't believe they do that in football. Like I said, I don't think that would be a very safe thing to do. To be perfectly honest.
And like DK says, you see guys in the NFL covering the ear hole. I mean, they literally like put their hands over the ear holes to try to block out the noise.
And you wouldn't want like what we have, right? You wouldn't want the over the ear type of thing, because then you're not gonna be able to even hear your players. Like, you still have to be able to communicate to your teammates, when you're on the field. And so you need to be able to hear and that kind of a thing. So I don't see that being the case.
Exactly. So Vince, Notre Dame announced, of course, last week that the September 28th game against Louisville is going to be the Irish wear green game. And, they wore the green uniforms, obviously, against Ohio State last year. My question is, do you buy or sell a green game every year? Like, Notre Dame needs to wear green uniforms at least once a year? Buy or sell that?
I like the green uniforms. I like the change. I like the difference, that kind of a deal. I'm going to sell that they have to do it. They don't have to do it. They don't need to do it every year. I think the kids enjoy it. Like I say kids, God, I sound like I'm 87. I think the players enjoy wearing different jerseys and things like
you're
that.
old enough to be the father of a college student at this point.
Geez,
So let that sink in for a while.
Don't remind me. I'm aware. But I think look, at the end of the day, it's about the players and it's about what they want. And I guarantee you the seniors wanted to wear green one game. So it's a buy for and from that standpoint, it is a sell from a fan standpoint. It's not something that they need to do, but players love it, man. And so they're going to do it every year.
And that's why, as long as the players want this, and I would assume that they would, if they're not doing green, then the only alternate uniform that they get is Shamrock Series.
True.
And I just feel like I realize Notre Dame is a traditional school, and you've started to see them sort of, buck some different things in recent years and start to kind of, modernize, obviously, in some different ways. Like, it's the most simple thing that you can do. Like, everyone else is wearing alternate uniforms, and the players really seem to like the alternate uniforms, right? Like, you're not just doing the same thing, white on the road, blue at home. We've talked about names on the back of the jerseys and stuff like that. It's just like, if you're Notre Dame, green is still one of your colors. And there are a lot of people who associate, green more with Notre Dame than even blue. So I just feel like, why wouldn't you do it once a year when everybody else is got like a different uniform for every game that they play? It seems like
it's Oregon.
Notre Dame, it seems pretty simple. Just wear green uniforms once a year.
Yeah,
I like it.
And what I do like about it is, look, Notre Dame's colors are navy blue and gold, right? The more blue and gold, blah 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 blah. That doesn't stick out in a stadium. You know what I mean? Like, you've got Nebraska red or Ohio State, they wear red, like those colors stick out in a stadium. Green sticks out in a stadium. So that's why I do like when Notre Dame wears green, because you can see who the Notre Dame fans are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Navy blue does not stick out in a stadium. People wear navy blue all the time. It's a very common color. And so I like the way the green looks in the stadium. And so for that reason alone, I would buy this, just getting everybody to wear the same color, because Notre Dame hasn't had like a traditional color that you wear when you go on the road, as a fan, right? Or at home or whatever. Because, look across the way, like, there's a million different colors that people could wear for Notre Dame, and still be a Notre Dame fan. Green is a predominant color. It's very easy to pick out. It gets everybody on the same page. That's why I like it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's great. Because then the other thing, like we did see with that Clemson game last year, where they wore the all whites on the road. I don't know if that'll happen again. Like, when you look at the outcome of the Clemson game, but like we saw, I can't remember who it was. There was someone on social media over the summer who had like the blue jersey and the white pants. Like, that's another good combination. Something simple that you could do. It doesn't have to be all the time, but something simple you could do. Just once, because again, like, the players like the alternate uniforms, and all these other schools have all these alternate uniforms. So just something real simple that it doesn't have to be that far off the path that you could do.
Look what happens when the recruits come into town, right? They do all kinds of different combinations, right? They got green, they got white pants, they got the all green, they got the blue with the white, they got the all white. The recruits love mixing it up and doing different combinations and things like that. If you think they like it, guess what? They grow up to be players. They like it too.
Absolutely.
Mix it up, man. Mix it up.
Fill in the blank. It's blank that new Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer says he had to give Nick Saban's old office a massive facelift because he says he was embarrassed to take recruits there because it looked like he was at his grandma's house.
Okay. First of all, Have you seen the difference?
I have.
Okay, I did too.
And it did look like
it was all wood.
Right.
It was all like the
paneling,
the
and
panel
old
cherry
doily chairs and stuff like that.
Like I personally kind of dig like the all wood like football. Like I kind of dug the all wood. Now maybe an update in the furniture wouldn't have been a bad move.
Because I mean, like what they did, they went from that. The office now basically looks like, kind of like what
sterile.
What a lot of the lobbies look like.
Yeah.
Like
yes.
When you walk in. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like now.
It's too sterile to me. Like I don't feel like that's an office. Like, it's got the logo with the light behind it and like all of these different things. And like, I kind of like the wood paneling and the stuff. I honestly thought that looked more regal and more like, frankly, it looked like a guy who won 6 national championships. So I didn't mind it. Again, you can update the furniture and stuff. That's all I would have done. I would have kept it the way it was. I think now it just looks a little, it's too much now. It's too modern, too sterile is the best word I can come up with. I don't like it.
It definitely looks more sterile now. I do think it's funny, like the people, who've answered like it. I think it's more fun, because like, that's what it looked like. But Nick Saban was obviously having a lot of success in recruiting. Like Kalen DeBoer is saying, I was embarrassed to take recruits there because it looked like his grandma's house. But Nick Saban, it's not like he was missing out on recruits, so like he was getting the job done. But at the same time, when I saw these pictures of Nick Saban sitting there, I mean, he was absolutely right. And like the wood, a little bit much on the wood paneling, like maybe you had like one wall, like with the bookshelves or like that, but it needed to be lightened up a little bit. I'm surprised his wife let him get away with that as long as he did. But you're right. Like there needed to be some kind of balance between that old school. Cause it's basically like my dad's den, at his house. He's got paneling and stuff that he put up, like in 1984 in that room. And I've mentioned, Dad, the paneling, I'm not so sure about. He kind of gave me this look like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like paneling. Like I'm a man. It's wood.
Yeah. Yes. No, look, there's a
smell of pine. There needs to be more pine smell in this room.
There's a difference between wood paneling from like the 80s. You know what I'm saying? Like the stuff that you walk up and you can kind of like push in and out, like it, it bends and it more like it belongs in like a double wide. Like there's that paneling that a lot of people were putting in like basements, when they were finishing their base. There's that, and then there's what Saban had. Like there is a difference. So I will say that there is a difference, but I feel like there could have been a happy medium between the two. That's what I'll say. I feel like there could have been a happy medium. I'm looking at both right now on my computer screen, and
it's kind of like you're pulling into a car dealership now.
Yes,
with what Kalen DeBoer has had.
Good call.
Oh, hey, space age, and like that's.
Yes, it looks more like the areas. Like I said, I've been going on a lot of visits lately, right?
Yeah.
His office looks more like the areas where they would have the mannequins with the uniforms on, like the different uniforms.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? And like the different
again, like
cleats.
you're walking into the, like the Nike, test lab or something.
Yes.
Like
that's what it looks like. It does not look like an office at all. Like, so there's got to be a happy medium in there someplace.
Yes.
That's all.
I mean, Saban is a man of mahogany, rich mahogany.
He is like mahogany.
Not surprised that was in there. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Caitlin Clark got a technical foul the other day for yelling at herself and punching the padding behind the basket because the official who teed her up said she was being disrespectful to the game of basketball.
That's ridiculous. There's no rule in the rule book that says you have to be respectful to the game of basketball.
Must respect the game.
Like you can be you have to be respectful to the players and other coaches and fans. Okay, cool. But that was completely directed to herself. And it was, an internal moment that obviously became external, I guess. But that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. That's a situation where the ref is trying to make it about them. I'm sorry. Yes. You are not the harbinger of respect for basketball. That's not your job.
It's very high school. Like that's the first thing that I thought of. Like that's something a high school official would do to a high school kid. You're trying to set some kind of example. This is a young adult woman. And again, like there was no one around her. She wasn't yelling at anyone. She was
Right.
frustrated with herself. She punched the padding, and there's no one within like 15 feet of her, and he
Right.
teased her up for disrespecting.
That's
it's like
ridiculous.
that's like that old school, like you always hear that about baseball, right? Oh, you got to respect the game of baseball, like respect all these old rules and whatever. Again, it's like,
But like baseball players aren't getting kicked out for like taking a baseball bat to the cooler in the
Right.
dugout.
Bo
You know what I
Jackson
mean?
didn't get like thrown out for breaking a bat over his knee.
Yeah,
like
exactly. 100%.
or over his head, or however other many ways that he broke a bat. It's just like, come on, give me a break. Again,
That's
it
not the place.
feels like a lesson you're teaching a high school or a little league kid.
I would say even younger than high school. Like I would have a problem with that as a high school coach if my kid got teed up for that exact action in a high school game. I would have a problem with that as a coach. Like what did he say? Oh, he was mad at himself. Did he swear at anybody? Did he
Exactly.
I mean, what are you kidding me? Like I would have a huge problem with that, even as a high school coach. Middle school or something, okay, we can. I still wouldn't tee up a middle schooler. I would pull him aside and be like, hey, hey, make sure you keep your temper, in check, that
Keep
kind
it
of
in
a
check.
thing.
Right.
But like, I still wouldn't even have teed up a middle schooler, let alone a professional. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's a little bit much, like you said. Like they're good refs, they're bad refs. The bad refs are typically like the Angel Hernandezes of the world.
Look at me.
Who make it about themselves.
Yep.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Could do without it. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. Vince, again, appreciate you
Yeah, man.
jumping in, pinch hitting tonight.
I'm glad things appeared to have mostly worked out for Jesse.
Yes.
I mean, obviously
Cleveland Grand Theft Auto. That's right.
It's going to be a giant pain in the neck to get it all fixed and everything like that.
And that's going to be the thing. 'Cause
Yeah.
now he's like, they told him, within 48 hours, you're going to hear from some
brother.
representative of Hyundai and all this.
Of course.
And that's going to be the drawn out process now. And
of
especially
course
since they're saving up for a wedding next year.
Right.
Now he's got to deal with this.
And now he's going to be without wheels too, unless they give him a rental or whatever. Like it's going to be accidents are one thing. They're a pain in the butt, but like it's the aftermath of the paperwork and the insurance companies and the auto shops. And it's like, it's the worst. The aftermath is worse than the actual thing itself.
Right.
I feel for him on that one.
He literally told me, like this morning when he was still, thinking they were going to show up in a decent amount of time, was pacing up and down the street.
I'm sure he was
waiting. And that's why, a couple hours later, they hadn't shown up. And I'm like, I'll just see if Vince can do the show.
Because he was not in the right frame of mind.
He was not going to be in the right.
I'll have to let him know he used his one get out of jail free card. This excuse does not extend to other shows today.
Exactly.
No, I'm just kidding. It is. Hey man, if I was in his shoes, I'd be just as mad. And I'm sure he appreciates the fact we took care of this for him. So
it's funny, DK. I don't know what exactly, if this is, a specific reference. He said Dirty Mike and the boys did some bad things in Jesse's car. He had another car stolen about 10 years ago when he was in college. Now this time there was, he had it locked and, like I said, they actually blew the lock off the door the first time. The knucklehead left his keys in his car. But it was in our driveway, but he left his keys in the car and
even better.
Some guys made off with it. But shenanigans definitely happened in the car that time. We don't have to go into those.
Just based on what was left behind. That's really all the further you need to get into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not had luck with cars, man.
No, he hasn't. I'll have to. DK's a reference from the other guys.
Yes.
I haven't watched that in a while. I'll have to go back and.
I recognized it as soon as he said it. Dirty Mike and the boys. Yeah.
Okay.
Because Will Ferrell gets his car stolen, and I believe they find the homeless guy in there.
That's right. I remember that now. And there was actually. Did you see the Seinfeld episode where there was there was the Cadillac and Kramer was wearing, the
fur coat?
Yeah, the fur coat, and there were some shenanigans going on in the parking lot there, and
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. All right, hit the like button before you leave. Appreciate you being here for all the stolen car talk. Jesse will, give you more details on his story later in the week when he comes back. But until then, Vince, I will talk to you later, and we will talk to you as well on IB Nation Sports Talk.